Hello, I'm Dustin Abbott, and today I finally got my hands on the new Canon 50mm f1.8, and this is the STM lens, and it is a replacement for what has commonly been called the Plastic Fantastic, and kind of completes the evolution of the original version 1 of this lens that had a metal build and a metal mount. And while this newest lens does not have a metal build, it is a much higher grade build, and it is back to having a metal mount instead of a plastic mount. Certainly when you hold these lenses in your hands, the new lens feels far more substantial, not quite to the degree of the 40mm f2.8 STM lens. It feels a little bit more dense. This one does feel a little bit lighter, but it's closer to the 40mm than it is to this lens, which still, of course, feels like a toy after all these years. And so one thing to note is that the new Canon center pinch caps are a little bit thicker, and so it may give you a false impression at first that the lenses are roughly the same height, but there certainly is a difference when you compare them side by side. It's not huge, but the new STM lens is a bit smaller. Now, surprisingly, Canon has gone to a 49mm front filter thread, and that is fairly unprecedented for them. The Plastic Fantastic 50mm f1.8 Mark II has a 52mm front filter thread. Kind of reminds me, the 49mm front filter thread reminds me of some of the old school lenses, like this great SMC Tacumar 50mm f1.4, which, despite having a large f1.4 aperture, has a 49mm front filter thread. So if you have a big concern over 49mm not being able to cut it on a 50mm lens, don't worry about it. Here's a larger aperture lens that does a great job and also shares that 49mm front filter thread. I only wish that modern lenses were built as nicely as what this is. You feel this lens and it is dense, it is heavy, it is a beautifully constructed lens. But that's neither here nor there. Now, one of the things that I will be looking at as a part of this, and I've already begun some testing, is of the difference in the focusing motor. Of course, that's one of the major upgrades, is the fact that this new lens has an STM or stepping motor. It's not only going to provide faster and hopefully smoother autofocus than this old micromotor driven lens that it's loud, it's scratchy sounding when it focuses, and so this should be an improvement. But also, of course, if you're using a body, and I've actually just added to my kit a Canon 70D for a variety of reasons. I wanted to have a crop sensor body for testing crop sensor specific lenses, but also this is one of the best implementations of the actually using that stepping motor STM technology, and that the Canon 70D will do servo AF autofocus during video mode, and so that's where the STM technology comes in very handy. So let's just take a quick look in this. We're not going to go into an exhaustive review here, but let's just take a quick look at the difference in the focus motor sound. And so I'm going to hold this near the microphone and we'll just randomly focus here. So as you can hear, it's not completely silent. In fact, it's not even the quietest version of STM focus that I've heard before. You can hear the motors whirring in there, but the focus is faster. It's still not blazingly fast, but it certainly is faster. And as we're going to see, it's a whole lot smoother sounding than this old lens right here. And so we'll do the same test here. Oh. So this lens was famous for that scratchy sounding autofocus that sounds like the gears were running through sand. And so certainly this STM motor is an improvement on that. It just has more of a whirring sound as it works. Now, one thing that I've already given a quick test to today, I haven't had a time to spend a lot of time with it yet, but one major difference is that Canon changed the aperture on this new STM lens. And so now the aperture iris, it has the more modern rounded blades rather than the in this older lens it just had 5 non-rounded straight blades, and so very quickly the circular highlights, often referred to as bokeh highlights, lost their round shape and even stopped down to f2.8. They began to become more hexagonal in shape. Now, the new lens allows you, because of those rounded blades and more of them, it allows you to step the lens down, and I shot a shot already that you can be able to view here at f4, and you can see in this shot that the bokeh highlights are still nice and round. That's a huge improvement. While Canon kind of claims that there isn't a big change to the optical formula of these two lenses, probably leaving some room for an update to maybe the 50mm f1.4 to kind of slot into that mode. The problem with the old Plastic Fantastic was never really its optics quality, because it produced pretty good images for the price point, and of course this new lens is still at that very same price point. But of course it had issues with focus, it obviously issues with the build, and with that aperture iris that we talked about. And one other improvement that Canon has made here is that they have drastically reduced the minimum focus distance and thus the maximum magnification. So obviously there has been some reshuffling at the very least of the lens elements in this design to allow it to focus down instead of to 1.5 feet. This new lens can focus all the way down to 1.1 feet, and so that brings the maximum magnification value up over 0.21 instead of the 0.15 times that was in the old lens. So that's a pretty big improvement right there, and it allows you to get in nice and close and throw things out of focus even in a more dramatic fashion. So that's certainly a very beneficial and helpful thing in this. And the other thing is that I do want to mention that while this has a better manual focus ring, I'm still not crazy. I don't know that I'll ever be crazy about the STM focus motors when it comes to manual focus. It's a focus by wire, and so it's not really a full-time override in the traditional sense. And then also it means that there is a bit of a lag that you're going to have to adjust to when you focus, because you make an adjustment and there's a momentary lag behind that as the lens actually, because it still requires the motors within the lens to do the focusing. Already I can tell that this is a pretty significant upgrade, and with some new coatings, and I think you're going to find that there's more contrast over the other lens. We'll get into things a little bit more closely as we go, but certainly this is at the very least a very nice evolution of this lens series, and this is a much more robust, nice feeling lens that, if anything, is even more compact and is going to be a great addition to a lot of photographers' bags. I'm Dustin Abbott. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.